So I meant to record much more of this whole process, but it's probably going to be a video series about my mill and all the dumb ways I put it together, what I would have done differently. So if anybody else wants to make their own do-it-yourself mill, they'll have an easier time. So I guess where to start. In the beginning, in the very beginning, probably a year ago, I was measuring everything and doing math to figure out the spacing of holes. But over distances, like if I was doing like 2 rows of holes for a rail, like imagine these, unless they're perfectly parallel sometimes, which I figured out very quickly that I don't have the tools nor the knowledge to get the rails perfectly parallel. The holes will change over distances, etc. The holes won't change, the spacing will change, so it's not equal all the way through. And then that combined with some of the tolerances on the Chinese parts I ordered. Not sure I knew that going into it, but there's a lot of variation, so that has really messed me up. Like on these rails, I'm sure people recognize them if you've looked into any do-it-yourself CNC or water jet, etc. I have these Chinese linear guides, and I guess they're linear rails, and the distance from here to here and the distance from here to here are not the same. They're supposed to be, I think they're supposed to be 50 millimeters and then 100 per, and this side is slightly longer than this side. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I can take out some calipers and measure them if there's enough interest for it. So what I ended up doing very quickly was figuring out that once I got my rails down, which I tried to be somewhat precise in getting them close to parallel by using 1, 2, 3 blocks, which are over somewhere else. I really don't know how well this is recording, actually, the angle. I would originally attach it to the guides, and then I'd slide it up and down and let this settle in a spot. But this isn't the Z-axis on my machine. Before I took my machine apart completely, because this was wood before and I'm upgrading to 1/2-inch aluminum, I milled some holes, and that's what these top holes are for. The holes to actually mount the spindle were perfect, but I moved all of these holes over this way a centimeter somehow. I missed a measurement in Fusion 360. So now I'm having to redo all this by hand the original way, getting to these. So what I ended up doing was to kind of avoid mistakes as much as I could. I CAD and 3D printed these templates that, I don't know if you can see them, that align. Can't really straighten up, but they align with the carriage. They're very close to being flush with the face and aligning with all the holes, and so that lets me. It's kind of a really lazy way to do things, but I don't know, it's been working for me so far. I say working, trademark. So yeah, but what I originally did was I would. I super glued these to the top of the guides like this. It's not super glued, I hot glued them to the top of the guide like this on all 4, and then I put whatever plate was, I put a dot of glue on the top of each one, and then I 1, 2, so they're 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they're all like this under, and they're super glued onto the top so they won't move. And I put a dot on each one, and then I just squished the top plate on. And then I let it sit for like a minute or 2 minutes just to cool down. Then I picked it up, and then I would hold these down and pry off the guides. I don't know if this is, I would hold these down and pry off the guides from the plate, and then I would just drill here. And that worked really, really well. It was very quick, no issues at all. And me and my infinite wisdom, after I did the holes, after I cut the holes with my old mill, I took it apart, and it turns out that the spacing was off. I think it was actually out a centimeter when it was supposed to be in one. So instead of just popping it back on the sheen and making new holes, because they're far enough apart where it won't change anything too badly, I have to do all this nonsense by hand again. I guess I'll show, I have videos of it working, but off in the distance over there is the mill. You can see the outline right there that yeah, pretty ugly. When I it's actually epoxy granite. When I cast it, oh man, 6 minutes, holy shit. Pardon my French. When I cast it, I didn't put enough mold release on some of the parts, and so there's some really large chunks of wood in some places. Like you see this left pillar is completely covered in wood. The right pillar is pretty clean. You can see how when I cast them, an order I learned in the previous one to get better. And the bed is also epoxy granite, but it's covered in plastic, so you can't see. But anyway, I'll turn this off, and then yeah. So I use the blocks to get it relatively. You can see I have the guide, the UU, so it's sold as SPR12 UU, sticking out a tad bit so I can make sure that this is on the far end coming in, so I can align it to that corner, and this is on the outside, so I can just get them. It's not perfect at all, but it's close enough to make them attach. You can see where the holes. So these match up perfectly with the holes on my spindle mount, but these holes were the ones that I drilled too far this way, and that one too far out that way. Oh, that's where I broke an end mill. Broke a drill bit in the hole, and I tried to drill it out, and I just gave up. 3 is gonna work for mounting this. These are also not the final. I'm gonna get some flat caps like these and get them all a little longer, because in wood, I just kind of drilled like a 1/4 inch in and then had them in, but I don't want to drill a 1/4 inch into this 1/2 inch aluminum. Okay. Semi defeating the purpose of getting the aluminum in the first place, so I just ordered some longer screws.